This is Gus Summers, and you're watching In-Show Celebrities. This is the time I take every Monday to talk about some of my favorite films and actors. This week, we have such a grand talent who's had a 60-year-long career, 6 decades of producing not only films, but albums, and has starred on Broadway. I'm talking about that ever wonderful talent, Miss Barbra Streisand. Yes, she's a award winner not only in film but in music and Broadway. I mean, she has done so much in those 60 years and is known the world around as an iconic entertainer. Well, first up is a film that I personally really enjoy. It's actually ranked up within the 100 best comedies. And it is a homage of a wonderful old film. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. But this great comedy is called What's Up, Doc? And it stars Barbra Streisand and another great actor, one of my favorites too. I think he's just has a wonderful screen presence, both in comedy and drama, Mr. Ryan O'Neal. This is one of their many pairings together. It's about a young lady who is a free spirit, who is in San Francisco and gets involved with this group of unsuspecting strangers because she carries a similar bag. It's this plaid garment bag, but a carrying case, basically. It looks like a doctor's case. But, it gets mixed up between her, who is basically a traveler who carries her clothes, Ryan O'Neal, who plays a music professor and carries rocks in his. And he believes he's a music professor. He believes that prehistoric man was able to make music through rocks because they have a tone to them, so he's always hitting rocks and listening to them. A couple other people. There's a rich socialite who carries her diamonds in there, and another gentleman who is a government agent who has government papers in there. So they're in this hotel, and people are wanting. Agents are wanting to get a hold of the papers. Criminals are wanting to get hold of the diamonds. And Barbra Streisand is, involved with Ryan O'Neal because she instantly just falls in love with him. And what I like about this movie is it stands on its own, but it's also a homage to a great film by Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn called Bringing Up Baby. I know many of you film lovers have seen that film. He plays a paleontologist, archaeologist, if I remember correctly, paleontologist, and she plays a socialite who just instantly falls in love with him, and the whole situation of them, coming together and all the screwball things that happen. So this is a homage to that film, and there are scenes that happen that are very similar to that film, which is wonderful, but it stands on its own. So you have Barbra Streisand, who is following Ryan O'Neal. Ryan O'Neal's in San Francisco trying to get a grant with his fiancée from a rich philanthropist to be able to continue his work. His fiancée. This film was her feature film debut. Wonderful, wonderful actress. I know you know who she is. Miss Madeline Kahn. She plays Eunice, his fiancée, and she's they're both perfect for each other, but they're very uptight. And when Barbra Streisand enters the picture, she inadvertently takes on the identity of Eunice. And for Ryan O'Neal to get his grant, and he has to pretend that she's Eunice, and I mean, the whole thing just basically is a big facade of everyone following everybody else, and chasing the bags, going in and out of rooms, and going through the streets of San Francisco. It's just a wonderful comedy, lighthearted, and it's just Barbra Streisand at her best when it comes to comedy. But there's one scene that I love, and it's an exact like I said, it's a homage to Bringing Up Baby. In Bringing Up Baby, Katharine Hepburn is arguing with Cary Grant, and they're at a big dinner party, and he's dressed in his tuxedos, and he wants to basically get away from her. Just says, "Okay, enough," and starts walking up these stairs. And she reaches for him. She goes, "David," and she pulls the tails of his tuxedo and rips the jacket, all straight up the back. Well, in What's Up, Doc? Same thing. Ryan O'Neal is just so neurotic. He's just, I gotta get away from you. I gotta get away from you. And he's going up an escalator. And again, same thing. She calls out for him, reaches for his coat, and just rips it. It's just funny. And again, it's just homage to that great film. And one of the things that I love about Barbra Streisand is that she is great in drama, comedies. I can mention tons of films where she's great as a comedian. Funny Girl was great. Serious dramas, the Way We Were, fantastic. But these films are just the ones in this small filmography that I really enjoy. Another one, again, pairs her up again with Ryan O'Neal. It's a great film. It's called The Main Event. And she plays a perfume queen. Her business is all about perfume. But what ends up happening is her accountant takes all her money. She's basically bankrupt. So she's trying to find out, what investments she has that will bring in some money. Well, she had this one investment was really meant to be a loss, and she tries to, get money from this. Well, the investment was she put money into a boxer, and he basically just collected a check. She got a tax write-off, but now she wants him to fight. And again, Ryan O'Neal plays the boxer. His name is Kid Natural. And, he hasn't boxed in, I don't know how long. He's actually a driving school instructor. His home is actually, because he's known as a boxer, is the shape of a boxing glove. So, she's constantly berating him. You have to fight. He says, "I don't fight. You have to fight. You have to get in shape. You have a contract." And so it's this whole thing of, getting him back into the ring. And then, of course, slowly he gets back into the ring. He resents her. And she's, constantly pushing him because he's basically her only viable investment to bring in money anymore. But there's this, again, another great scene in this film where he's telling her, "Well, I'm going to go to training camp," and he brings all his friends who are boxers, trainers. So it's a huge training camp, and he's saying, "I'm not going to treat you any different. You're going to be one of the guys," because that's what she said. She said, "I just want to be one of the guys." He says, "Okay." And he says, "Well, I'm going to go to my cabin. I'm going to bed now." She says, "Where's my cabin?" He says, "You don't get a cabin. You sleep with all the men." And so, it's a long, big cabin, tons of beds. And she walks in, and all the men are, they're in their skivvies, wearing towels, because it's a men's place. And she walks in, and she's all quiet and just says, "I'm going to go lay over here." And they're all just watching her and just, "I'm going to lay in this bed." So she gets situated. All the men are just like, just watching her. And then, by the time they turn off the lights, you hear one guy says, perfume, it's driving me crazy." And all the guys are, "Throw him out. He's getting crazy." And they throw the guy outside in the snow and just his underpants. It's just funny. It's just one of those, again, one of those comedies that really worked. It wasn't critically acclaimed, but it was like one of the top 10 movies during that year. Again, it's matter of fact, it's one of these that film I saw in theaters, and I remember watching it and just enjoying it because it was fun, lighthearted. Again, something she does really well. One other film, I like to talk about because, again, she's a great dramatic actress and has an eye as a director. And when this film came out, people were saying, basically what happened? Did it direct itself? You need a great director to help, make a great film. And the particular film I'm talking about is Prince of Tides. I remember seeing this film, and it is such a large topic, and it deals with interpersonal relationships, one's own psyche, the relationship with the stranger, and reestablishing relationships that you think have pretty much deteriorated. It was a great film. Her co-star in this was Mr. Nick Nolte, a grand talent. For those of you that haven't seen it, he plays Tom, a relation to his sister, who's seen Barbra Streisand, who's a psychiatrist, and she has lots of issues. So Barbra Streisand reaches out to him to see if he can give her some insight, and he goes, as he talks to her, he finds out that his sister actually has is schizophrenic. She has split personalities, and one of her personalities is an author. And one of the things they talk about are her books, and she wants to find out more of the meaning of the books, but she believes they hold the key to her her mental health. And he's reluctant to talk about it, and so on and so forth. I don't want to give too much away. I know many of you have seen it, but it's one of those films that is it was great because it deals with so many issues, like I said, but not only mental health issues, but just interpersonal relationship issues, issues of the heart. And there's one scene that I just want to point out, which is towards the end of the film, Barbra Streisand and him are talking, and she basically brings up the subject about love and such. And Nick Nolte says something like, it's not that I love you less, is that I just love them longer. I think that was a great moment, because it was a man who was, now he himself had to deal with his own issues, and upon doing that, he felt there were certain roads that he had to travel again, and not just veer off and travel a new road. So it's a wonderful film in that regard, that it's gives a glimpse into men who, when discovering something about themselves, are willing to go back and try again, versus just cutting everything off and going in a new direction. Just like I said, one of the aspects of the film that I loved. But I haven't even scraped the surface. I've seen so many of her films. I've seen how many of us have seen Yentl? Fantastic. One last film that I want to mention, of course. I remember sitting in the drive-in theater watching this movie and thinking, wow, what a big movie, what a great cast. The film I'm talking about, A Star Is Born. I remember watching this film and thinking, she's great, but I remember watching her co-star, Mr. Chris Christopherson, thinking, wow, that is a movie star. That's a rock and roll singer. It was fantastic. She plays a young singer who is trying to, develop a musical career, and she runs across Chris Christopherson, who is already, a huge superstar, and she pretty much blows him off, which gets him more interested. And long story short, they develop a relationship. And again, what I love about the film is that it deals with relationships, their relationship with each other. Her rising up and being an unknown and rising up to become a superstar, matching him, while his career is now kind of descending, and him dealing with that. And they had a couple of great co-stars. One of them plays his manager, Mr. Gary Busey. I mean, he plays, it's Gary Busey playing the manager, but he just adds this great element. When Gary Busey is on it, he delivers as a great actor. I mean, we've seen many of his films where he's just been right on it. And he delivered here This film, you just see Chris Christopherson and the issues that he deals with. Being a superstar, being established, everyone wanting something from him wanting to free himself from the trappings of success. And here's Barbra Streisand, diving right into it because the doors were open. And the film again is fantastic, not only in its acting, not only in its storytelling, the music, wonderful music. Has one of my favorite songs, Watch Closely Now, sung by Chris Christopherson and written by a legendary singer-songwriter, Mr. Paul Williams. I actually had the opportunity to tell Mr. Williams, this is like one of my favorite songs, and that was just fantastic. But again, what I love about her films is that they can be light comedy, but still have great truths in them, or they can be heavy dramas, and again have great insight into people, their not only their thought process but their actions, and and the people who surround them as well. But again, she's a fantastic actress, singer, of course. What can we say? There's nothing else we can say. But what's wonderful is that she's still going strong. She still performs in films and gives concerts and does so much. Even at this point in her career where she could just rest on her laurels, she doesn't. She keeps performing. And again, it's fantastic. The films that I talked about, What's Up, Doc with Ryan O'Neal. The Main Event, again, with Ryan O'Neal. Great film. The Prince of Tides with Nick Nolte. And, of course, Stars Born with Chris Christopherson. Films that you have to see, but, those aren't the only ones. These are just, again, some of my favorites. Well, this is Gus Summers, and you've been watching In-Show Celebrities. This is the time I take every Monday just to talk about my favorite films and actors. And of course, be sure to visit us every Thursday from 1 to 2 Pacific Standard Time on theinshow.com, where I host The In-Show. And I just have all sorts of guests on, and we talk about their projects and whatever it is that they want to talk about. Of course, visit us on all those great social media sites: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram. Of course, as always, ladies and gentlemen, Gus has left the building.